Jukebox Nation TV, sponsored by cbgitty.com. We're here in the CB Gitty shop today, and I am CB Gitty, sometimes known as Ben. We're going to be building not one, but two washtub basses here today. The first one is going to be using some store-bought stuff that we got at Lowe's. The second one is going to be using some reclaimed stuff. So I'm going to show you how you can go out to Lowe's, buy the parts you need, and build a washtub bass, or you can scrounge around antique shops, junk shops, old rake handles, whatever you've got, and build one. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. If you have any questions as we're going, feel free to ask them as we go. We're going to be keeping an eye on the laptop here for incoming questions. So the first one, I'm going to use this galvanized metal bucket. Bought it at Lowe's last week. It's got a little bit of metallic tone to it. It says made in the USA, so that's always a bonus. That's going to be my resonator. That's my wash tub. Now for the neck, or basically it's a stick, I'm using Mr. Happy the Broom. Do a little happy face on there, and this is to show you this is store-bought stuff. This is stuff you can get at pretty much any hardware store and make a musical instrument out of it. Now for the string, I'm using some Titanium Force weed whacker line. This is the round kind. Shane Spiel tells me do not get the star-shaped kind, the super tough, whatever it is, because it'll blister your fingers in no time trying to play it. So you want the roundest, smoothest weed whacker line you can get. The one I'm going to be using, it's 0.105 inches in diameter. That's 2.67 millimeters. So it's the biggest one I could find. I figured for a bass that would be the way to go. All right, so to show you how simple this is, I've got a few basic tools here that I'm going to use. A drill to make the hole through the bucket. I've got a eye hook with a couple of nuts and one washer, and this is going to go into the top of the bucket and be tightened in there so that I can attach my line to it, and then it's going to come up and attach to the broomstick here. So to prepare my broomstick, I'm going to make a notch here at the very top end, and that notch is going to fit over the rim on the bottom of this bucket here. So I've got a handy dandy hand saw here, a crosscut saw, and I'm just going to try to brace it. Now this is a push saw, so I got to start my groove with a couple of back strokes. Just like so, and then just going to widen it a little bit. So I've got a little bit of a wedge there. Knock over some things, no problem. So now with that there, that's going to fit right over the rim of my bucket. So there's what we ended up with. Hopefully that focuses in. Just a rough sort of slot there so that it doesn't keep slipping off of the edge of the bucket. All right, so now I'm going to make the hole in the bottom of the bucket. I've got an old punch here and my loose head hammer. Just going to go right in the middle and do that. Yeah, this might be a point, Nick, to bring it in a little bit, zoom in. I'm going to widen that hole out there to get it to where my eye hook will go through. So I have two nuts on the eye hook here. One to keep it from going down in too far, and then the other one that goes on the other side to hold it in place. So probably don't need to show you how you put a nut on an eye bolt inside a bucket, but you know the shaft sticks through there, you get it started. Tighten her down like that. Now I'm just going to keep it finger tight. I'm not too worried about it being a little bit loose or permanent for this. In the interests of a speedy move-along video here. All right, so here's my eye hook sticking up out of the bottom of my soon-to-be washtub bass. Now I'm calling it a washtub bass. It could just as easily be called a washtub cello. A little bit smaller tub, a little bit shorter stick. You know, you can get, with a full-size tub, They even make them bigger than this, I think. You can get quite big with it, like full scale. This is a partial scale, so whatever you want to call it, bass, cello. Got any comments, questions popping up on the screen there? All right. We're moving along nicely here. Hopefully the sound's coming through okay. My microphone's over here to my left, so that's why you keep seeing me kind of look this way a little bit. So now I'm going to drill a hole up through the shaft of the broomstick right here, and this is a broom that we actually use here at CB Gitty. So my goal is to leave the broom in a functional state. That may not be your goal when you're building one. So, got my drill here. I'm going to choose a bit. I'm choosing a bit that the weed whacker line will fit through comfortably with a little bit of room. Going to use my punch again to start a hole.
We have confirmation that sound is good.
Sound is good. That's awesome. So I start my hole to make the drilling a little bit easier. And I should note, I may not be following every safety precaution during this video. I leave it up to you when you're building your own stuff to follow all appropriate safety recommendations of whatever tools you're using. Fortunately, this is pretty straightforward. There isn't a lot of high danger involved. So now I've got a hole through my broomstick there. So I'm going to take my weed whacker line and a pair of side cutters. Did I grab the right one? Yes. Take the broom off for a minute. Kind of wrap this around there a couple of times. Now I should tell you, this is unrehearsed. I've never built one of these before of this style using weed whacker line. And I especially haven't done it on a live broadcast straight to Facebook. So things may go wrong. This may not work exactly like I hope, but we're doing it anyway. Because the goal of this, I don't know if we've talked about the goal of Cigar Box Nation TV. We want to show people all around the world that pretty much anybody, anywhere can build their own musical instrument and make music on it. You don't have to wait for somebody to hand you an instrument. You don't have to go to a place and buy one off the wall. You can make your own guitar, you can make your own instrument, and make your own music. And to me, that's the real mission of everything we're doing here. And as you can tell, me and Shane Spiel and a lot of other people get pretty excited about some pretty wacky things. So that's all right. All right, so I'm going to trim off my excess here. Hopefully not too close to the knot. Try to pull that as tight as I can get it. Cut it off up here at the reel. I should also note I have built one upright bass before using a full-size tub. Well, actually two. I built the one we showed off in an earlier broadcast, and then one of this stick style as well. But I haven't done it with weed whacker line, and I've never used a functioning broom. So we are, as usual, unscripted, making this up as we go. All right, so I wrap this around a couple of times, and then I'm just going to try to have so it has a little bit of tension on it. Try to bring that forward a little bit, bring the slack through and around, tighten that down pretty good. And then I'm going to try to tie it off here. I'm discovering as I go that this weed whacker line does not tie very well. It's not made for tying knots, but we're doing our best with it. And as I said, I have no idea how this thing's going to sound. I did not pre-build one of these to see how this bucket works or how this weed whacker line works. So this is raw live action footage here. Live action. In front of a live studio audience. Yeah, we're going to need more canned laughter and...
Whoa.
All right. stuff is not tying well at all, and I'm sure people watching, homemade instrument builders, are thinking of all sorts of ways to do this better.
Mr. Happy.
Oh, Mr. Happy. Well,
Well said.
this is live action. All right. So that gives you the basics right there. It's as much percussion as it is melody line. It's a little rattly because I didn't tighten down my nut and washer. I'm going to go back on what I said earlier and have another go at that to see if it improves the sound a little bit. Just kind of do it the old-fashioned way with a pair of pliers on one side and a crescent wrench on the other. Bring that in. All right, that's not to tighten down too good on there. And because I used an open eye hook, you'll notice that my string. We're playing guess at the. You got it in one, Noel. Noel Preston, everybody, on the quick tool delivery. Very.
Thanks very much.
Don't be alarmed. All right, let's try that. Gonna reattach my loop. Hope it didn't come untied. Okay, like so. So now maybe we'll have a little less rattle. You do. Boom, 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 boom.
That,
So you-
ladies and gentlemen, is a picture worthy.
Get Mr. Happy into view here. And you can kind of mute. You can mute the top of the bucket with your foot a little bit if you want. All right, so there you go. You can go out to Lowe's, or if you got an old broom and a bucket, you can go out there and get some weed whacker line and have yourself a pretty functional little one-string washtub bass in not much time. And of course, it can play in pretty much any key if you got the ear for it. But honestly, with a lot of washtub bass players, it's as much percussion, just getting that thump under there underneath the guitar or whatever else is being played. All right, so that's the store-bought one. But as you know, we are not a big fan of using store-bought new stuff. It's fine if that's what you got and that's what you want to do. We like using old, reclaimed stuff. So we're going to get that out of the way here. Oh, sorry. Sacrifices must be made in the name of instrument building. So this is a mini wash tub of some sort. I don't even remember where I got it, but it's old. We might have found this downstairs, actually. I don't remember. But it's tin of some sort, and we're going to make another washtub bass or washtub cello out of this one, using pretty much the same methods, but we'll see what it sounds like when we're done, whether we like it better than the store-bought stuff. I'm certainly pretty sure it's going to have more of a cool look to it. But all right, same process. Start the hole in the tin. Lost my punch. There it is. Find the center of the tub. Give it a little something. Widen it up. I should say while I'm doing this, since I already explained the process, the reason I'm wearing bib overalls today is not just because I wanted a costume or whatever. This workbench that we're at here, as I explained in Tuesday's broadcast, this was my grandfather's workbench. Back in Ohio where I grew up, this was in his garage, and he spent about 30 years of his life, evenings and weekends, tinkering on projects and restoring things and fixing things at this bench. And in cooler weather, he was always in his trusty bib overalls. I don't know how many pairs he wore out over the years, but he was always in his bibs. I've owned these about 10 years, haven't worn them that many times, But when I was thinking about doing these things here at the bench, I'm like, you know what? I need to wear some bib overalls in honor of my grandfather. So that's why I'm in this get-up today. And I was supposed to be working while I was saying all that, and that didn't happen. So on this one, so I don't have to worry about tightening the top nut down, I'm going to bring it all the way up to the top of the threaded shaft. That way it can't loosen up once I get this bottom on. Get that in there. I already showed you the close-up on this, so I'm just going to skip through it. I'll thank Noel again for the quick action on the tools. Tighten that down into my old wash tub here, and we're going to be thumping on this one in just a couple of minutes. So it might be a good time to see if any questions have rolled in, Nick.
Got none so far. Shane's been doing a good job of giving a shout out to some washed-up bass players.
Oh, famous washtub bass players. I'll tell you, has he mentioned Horace Panter? Our buddy Horace. Horace is, he's over in Great Britain. He is the bassist for the ska band The Specials, that really helped bring ska to the forefront back in the late 60s into the 70s and 80s. And at an event a couple of years ago out in LA, we introduced Horace to a washtub bass, and he played it on stage. His first time playing one, along with Shane Spiel on cigar box guitar, and I gotta say, he played the hell out of it. So, one among many famous washtub bass players. I should say this stick is a handle from a tool. I don't even remember where it came from, but it's got this curve at the top. And I'm going to build this one. I don't know if this is right or not, but I'm going to build this one so the curve goes forward so that my string is going to be out from the neck a little bit more. So it clears the neck a little bit more. And we're going to see how that works. I honestly don't know. So, making the hole here in the top. I'm using a 3/16 inch drill bit or some such. I didn't really check. You'll notice there's not a lot of measuring going on here today. I've got a ruler. We're not using it. This is a no measure project. You just do whatever works. Sorry again, Noel. Just beating him up over there. Let's see, that's the thinner. That's the .095. I'm going to stick with the bigger stuff. And as you can see, this one is it's going to have an even shorter scale than the first one I built. This is like getting into true cello scale here. I don't know what it will end up being, but short. What am I doing? Oh, I got to notch the bottom of my neck like I showed you, so it stays on the rim of the bucket pretty good. Doesn't take much, honestly. You know, we get a lot of questions on Cigar Box Nation, cigarboxguitar.com, CB Gitty. What's the right way? What's the right way to build a cigar box guitar? What's the right way to build a this or that? And the answer is there is no right way. There is no one right way. The right way is you figuring out the way that works for you. Read, look at what other people have done, and then jump in, try stuff. If it doesn't work, try something else. That's the name of the game with this homemade instrument building. Relax, don't worry, and build something. All right. Now I got to find the end of my weed whacker line here, because the last person to use the roll clearly wasn't thinking of the next person. Oh wait, it was me. All right, so I'm just going to kind of get a start here. Not going to need a lot of line for this one because it's a shorter scale, but weed whacker line is pretty cheap, so I'm not worried too much about wasting it. This time, just to be difficult and contrary, I'm going to tie it off at the top of the neck first. No particular reason. And again, this stuff is not very inclined to have knots tied in it, so we're just going to give it a couple of loops there, make sure it's staying tight, and maybe tuck the end in over here so it stays out of the way. Gonna get the tension now. You want it to start off, I didn't mention this last time. You want to start off with it a little bit forward, because this stuff does stretch. So you want it when you're pulling it, there's the first note. You want it when you're pulling it back to have a good bit of tension, but it's really just kind of, there's no rule to it. You just kind of do what seems. So I'm going to take it to right about there. Get that out of the way so I can finish tying this off, wrap it around a few times. You probably gathered I was never in the Navy. I'm not very good with knot tying. Well, you spent some time involved with Navy operation. He was Air Force first, but then you worked at the shipyard.
Yes.
You must have picked up some knot tying.
Yes, that would not be any of the ones we
These
use.
are no official Navy knots.
That is not an official Navy knot. Although you are efficient at what you're doing.
That's kind.
It's not even afraid now.
I'm afraid it's not a good knot. But anyway, as long as it holds, we're okay. All right, so here is the cello, the washtub cello, I'm going to call it, just because there's nobody to tell me not to. And because this one's smaller, I'm going to use a stool. Now you'll find with older washtubs, you'll get some play in the top like that. You'll get some funky sounds. And if that bothers you, then building basses out of washtubs may not be for you. We have a question?
Or step down.
Yeah, you can kind of push your foot down there, but that really mutes the volume that you're getting. I'm keeping my foot up on the rim. Is the rim visible?
Yeah.
So I'm keeping my foot up on the rim, on the edge of the washtub, so it's not really touching the top.
We do have a good question from Bruce. Would a blast from a heat gun make it easier to knot and hold the knot when it cools?
It probably would, and I was thinking that, like, trying to melt it together and join it certainly is worth a try. I'm not gonna get into it here on this broadcast, but it's one of many ways that this design, this method can be improved and expanded upon. And my advice almost always is try it and see. And I'll say there are a lot of people on Cigar Box Nation and elsewhere that have built these. I am not the originator of this instrument. A lot of things have been tried, a lot of things have been figured out over the years, and I believe there's even a group on cigarboxnation.com dedicated to washtub basses. So if you're interested in this, there's a lot more to be learned, a lot more to be tried. Now there is one thing I want to try before we get done here. It's always, you might be noticing a theme. When I build something out here, we did the diddly bow the other day. Yeah, you build it, that's cool, you play it, but then you gotta amplify it. You gotta plug that thing in, crank the amp, and see what happens. I honestly don't know what's gonna happen. I've got what have I got? I've got a stick-on pickup here, one of our, what do we call them? Shane, the Bonehead, I think. Shane came up with the name of the Bonehead adhesive pickup. It's got some stickum on the back, it's got a little volume control on there. So you stick it to the front of your guitar, cigar box guitar, whatever, and it's got a piezo in there, it's gonna pick up the sound and send it to the amp. I don't think this was designed with washtub basses in mind. So we're gonna see what happens here. Just because I don't know any better, I'm gonna stick it to the inside of the tub. Let's see, I'm gonna brush it off a little bit so it sticks. It's kind of funky in there. I don't know what this tub held, but I'm beginning to think it might have been human remains. But anyway,
It's important to question, when he said it's kind of funky in there, he smelled the brush afterwards.
He's a
All right.
perfectionist.
So now I've stuck that in there, I've got my amp here. It's probably gonna feed back like nobody's business. Takes it a minute to get, something's happening. This doesn't feed back, I'm gonna be amazed. All right, in position. Make sure my bass is all the way up, because that's what we're going for here. Bass, bass, a little bit of reverbs. Why not? Oh, there it is. See, I told you. Farley, what did you do? Now, Shane Spiel and Farmer John, who's in the Snake Oil band, they have found a way to amplify these using a rod piezo, I think, duct tape to the shaft of the eyeball inside the can, or inside the tin, and then putting that maybe through a preamp, I'm not sure, but it kind of cleans up and gives you a cleaner signal. So there are ways to make these concert grade instruments on the level of the Snake Oil band. Well, I think that is all, unless there are any more questions, Nick. I think that's all we've got for you today, showing you how to build simple, basic washtub basses. There are sometimes called gut buckets, all sorts of variations. Some have a fixed pole here with a lever on top that you use to change the pitch. So I've seen one of those in action down at a place called Charlie Boyle's Greenhouse nearby here in Dover. It's a sight you won't soon forget, I'll tell you. And the songs he sings along with them. I cannot sing on this live broadcast because this is a family presentation. Nick, why don't you bring that one back over and somebody jump in, we'll have a duet. Who wants to be on the spot? No, Dale? Come on, Dale.
Come on,
Get in
Dale.
this now.
Get away. It's percussion. Yeah, come on.
You're gonna talk me through this one.
All right, so you get the
Make sure
slot
Mr.
there.
Happy's visible.
Get the slot onto the rim so it stays in place. Slot here. Let's try this out. Thank you, Farley. All right. So keep your foot up on the rim here so it's not really touching the top, so it doesn't mute it. Now Dale's a drummer, so bear with me.
Well, yours is amplified, mine's
Oh,
not.
I'll turn it off.
That's
I'll
the
turn it
wrong
off.
way.
We want this to be fair and even. Nobody can. All right, ready?
Yeah.
So you move this back and forth.
I'll go-
to
I'll
change
play in
the pitch.
between.
Okay. Pull it back a little more. Putting it under more tension gives you more volume. Dale has a lot more rhythm than I do. I can barely do this. Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
Give him
I'm
15 minutes with it, he'll be an expert by tomorrow.
So how do you know what note you're hitting?
You don't.
Okay.
And you just don't worry about it too much. to be
You go
honest.
by feel.
Now, with this style, you can't do it with this because I use this curved stick. With this style, you can change the note by, instead of pulling the stick back and forth, you can move your hand up and down. A little bit better position helps. It isn't set up too good for it, but that's another way that you can do it. All right, well, that's all we've got for you today. Thank you, Dale. Oh, well, good.
I've got to get back to work.
Okay. I did want to say one idea I had earlier today Haven't tried it yet, and Shane told me don't try this on live broadcast because you don't know if it'll work. And, well, that's half the fun. I want to try a stick on top. I don't have a stick. But basically make a neck that'll come up over the front, or what's actually the bottom of this tub, and on up, and then use a flying bridge like we do on our pure and simple cigar box guitars. It'll go over that neck, not touching it, and rest on this. And then you could even have frets or whatever up top, at least mark them off, and that will allow the bottom of the tub to be the resonating surface of the bass. Using it'd be, I could probably throw one together in just 15 minutes, but we'll save that for a future broadcast. Kind of gives you something maybe you want to try, a little shout out challenge to anybody who's watching. So that's all we got today for Washtub Basses. Thanks to everybody in the Gitty crew who has jumped into the scene here to help or otherwise. And thank you for watching.
I would like to say, if anyone, let me get in front. If any of you build a washtub bass after watching this, post it on Cigar Box Nation or CB Gitty. We'd love to see them.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Nick. This is Cigar Box Nation TV, sponsored by cbgitty.com. We're at CB Gitty here today, and I'd like to thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed it.